design my courses and the way I understand human nature. So today I'm going to talk to you about that have these feelings of being alienated from campus. So I know that this astronaut is a little bit weird to talk about education and to have a thought of astronaut, but I think it conveys this alienation that e-learners sometimes feel, the feeling of not belonging to the campus. Maybe this is one of the reasons that there is high dropout rate in distant courses. Also, students, they are not mindful of fellow students, and sometimes e-tutors themselves, they have this inability to recognize faces. Actually, there is a disease called prosopagnosia, and it is a medical state in which people, they have inability to recognize faces due to trauma. So I think that people, they feel uncomfortable when they don't see faces. Not all of them, but many people have this feeling. Also, text-based communication seems to be fragmented. It is easier to be derailed. Sometimes unintentionally we offend people. So this transactional distance creates problem for e-learners and e-tutors. So I would like to find a way to bridge this distance. So I have started to investigate video enhanced communication to see how this process could work for e-learning courses. So the first step for me was to find a pedagogical model, and the community of inquiry model is a very efficient and very popular model. Is comprised of three overlapping circles representing social, cognitive, and teacher presence, where educational experience is in the middle. Reading the literature, this model was basically for text-based communication, and there is no reference to body language or to video-enhanced communication, at least the period that I was working for this project. So I would really like to fill in this gap, to include to this model synchronous video communication. So the next step was for me to find the research methodology. Grounded theory is a very systematic way to research with a qualitative approach. Informed means that in all the steps, you can see what other people are doing, be informed by literature, and compare your data with others to find similarities or differences and explain. So, the first step, of course, was to identify literature gaps and research questions. Then interview, then finding the proper people to talk to, then coding, and systematic, open, axial, and selective coding. And at the end of the process, literature review, memory refinement, and theory of praxis. This was the step-by-step process that I used to formulate the theory of tele-proximity. So, the research questions. So, for what educational purpose well-experienced educator use video enhanced communication? How does synchronicity affect teaching, cognitive, and social presence? And what are the contextual factors that take place and influence the process? So, I'm really proud of the research sample. I was very lucky to talk to very experienced educators. So I tried to talk to educators that they were very experienced because the ones that they have least experience perceive obstacles as greater than they are in reality, according to some research findings. So the people that I talk to have at least 8-year experience in e-learning courses and at least 5-year experiences in uses video enhanced communication for their courses. So I thought that this was a very good sample, and it gave me a lot of data to think about and develop my thematic analysis later on. So this is, I think, the most interesting part of the presentation. When I asked them why you use this video enhanced communication in your courses, they gave me 3 I'm sorry for the interruption. I was about to say that this part was the most interesting of my presentation, so the light went off. It was something unexpected. I'm sorry for the inconvenience and the technical issues. So I was talking about my research sample. My research sample is a group of people that I'm really, really proud of because they dedicated a lot of time for my interviews. They were talking for more than an hour sometimes. They have been awarded International Educational Prize, and they have more than 8-year experiences with e-learning courses and 5-year experiences in using video communication for e-learning classes. So when I asked them, why do you use video enhanced communication for your courses, they came up with 3 very interesting explanations. So they talked about embodied cognition, and they referred to the work of Lakoff, 2008, in relation to how gesture, facial expression provide cognitive support for the content, but also referred to the MIT lab, the MIT Human Dynamics Lab, in which Alex Sandipendland is the director. And this lab actually is working with big data, and they have found that a surprising amount of human behavior can be reliably predicted from unconscious communication mechanisms. Actually, they have created even sociometers and sensors like badges, and they could predict if somebody could be hired for a job in a job interview, if an educator is really popular with the population, if a business deal would be sealed with a contract. So this unconscious communication mechanism actually uh, has to do with influencing one another, mimicry, how we imitate smiles, head nodding during action activity, how energetic and how happy we are, fluency and consistency of speech. Um, and I don't want to go into this research a lot because there are a lot of findings about on and signals and how they shape our words. But the important thing is that a new science was created called social physics science. There is a website from developed by MIT, and they have some very interesting findings. When people are working together, doing the same thing in symphony, for example, in a dialogue, rowing together, dancing together, they become happy. Our body releases endorphins. Another unexpected finding for me was that what drives group performance is not cohesion, motivation, and satisfaction, as I had expected, but it was conversational turn-taking, how much time everybody talks. And another issue that affected group performance was the ability to read each other's social signals. Women tend to be better at reading social signals, so groups with more women tend to do better. This is what big data say. I'm not a researcher, but they have thousands of surveys and thousands of informants at MIT lab. And another surprising fact was that it's not the brightest of people that come up with the good ideas. It is those who are best at harvesting ideas from others. It is not only the most determined to drive change, it is those who most fully engage with like-minded people. All of these were really surprising to talk about educators and to introduce me to this social physics science. And I was wondering how we can use this in our educational institution. So another theory that was referred to by my informant was mirroring people. It's in the same framework, but it comes from a different discipline, from brain research. Jacoboni has found out that there are smart cells in the brain that allow people to understand others, from imitation to morality, from political affiliation to consumer choice. Mirror neurons are relevant to myriad aspects of social cognition. In plain English, if you see somebody smiling, you smile back. But if you learn a language and you watch somebody speaking in French, for example, the same region in your brain for language learning is highlighted. This is what Jacoboni says. Of course, there are some people that are against this theory, but I'm here to present to you what my informant has used as justification. Now going back to video conferencing. Of course, some people say that video conferencing gives you an idea of the person, some hand gestures, smiles, and facial um, and smiles and facial characteristics, but you don't have the full body. Of course, now we have teleportation. New technologies are able to holoport people to different locations. This photo comes from a video from Microsoft explaining how you could interact with your child and play with it, even if you are miles away one from another. This is a very interesting video. You can find it on YouTube, so I don't want to spend your time on that. So this image was developed by Professor Nick Bustamante, lead illustrator at Louisiana Tech University from the States, and this Professor Turk Ahmad is collaborated to give a seminar in different parts of the world. So I thought it was interesting image for you to see. Now, having in mind all these theories and what my informant have said, along with other data and literature review, I tried to expand the community of inquiry model. So, tele-teacher present could be defined in the study as expression of embodied identity that mirrors thinking process, behaviors, emotions, and aesthetics for the purpose of realizing personally meaningful learning outcomes and a sense of place for online students and instructors as well. So, according to my informants, being present through video communication, you enhance the authenticity and institutional credibility. E-learners feel that they speak to the professor from the university. There is not somebody else who is just correcting papers, and they really enjoy this interaction. Also, educators, they enhance their identity performance. They communicate better their pedagogy, their shared academic expectation, and their attitudes towards synchronous video communication. And through this dialogue with students and putting faces on students, they have this feeling of professional salience, the feeling that I'm doing a good job, which was really important for almost all the informants in my research. So the next step was to redefine telecognitive process. Telecognitive process is defined as the extent to which learner and instructors are able to make their thinking and feelings visible, construct and confirm meaning, learn skills and play roles through sustained sensory reflection, offline embodiment and discourse, online embodiment on stage. So these states that video conferencing creates help the learning process by being visible. So educators use it for based approach to mimic right thinking, behavior, and social signaling, for reflection, for practical skills, and for content presentation. Of course, there are some guidelines. Most of the time, it is for limited time, smaller chunk of information. Uh, it's important to be not to have connectivity problem with students, to be able to have dialogue. But of course, there was one informant coming from South Africa that used video conferencing to teach doctors in Africa, and used video conferencing for a very large number of students, and they could overcome technical issues. And so these guidelines are not prescriptive. It's what most of the informants have proposed. Social presence, telesocial presence. Uh, give this sense of place to the group. So it's defined as the ability of participants to create their identity in a sensory rich state, communicate purposefully in a trusting environment, and develop interpersonal relationships by way of projecting their individual experiences, ideas, and feelings. So the video conferencing seems for my informants to create a sense of place, for togetherness, for group cohesion, promotes immediacy as open embodied communication, and intimacy as emotional embodied expression. So now the teleproximity model, actually in the core we can see the human interaction. The blue circle is the stage, the theatrical stage upon which telepresence is performed, and the arrow are the contextual factors that influence the stage, the theatrical stage, and the presences. So the university policy, time zone, technology used, the instructor identity, the student's identity, and the learning objectives are some contextual factors that affect the teleproximity model. So what is the potential of the model of teleproximity? Personally, it has changed the way I design e-learning courses. I take into account many other factors. It has helped to, according to what the informants have said, to somehow bridge transactional distance and minimize dropout rates, to build online identities according to expectation. It helped me to expand the community of inquiry model, and I wish that this research could promote further research in the field of synchronous video communication, and also be able to research different aspects of human communication through video conferencing and teleportation. So for me, this research project changed the way I understand human nature. I know that we are still working mainly with text-based courses, and we make our thinking visible through writing, but I think this alternative, whenever it is possible, could enhance the teaching performance and learning performance for our students. So I think that it's an alternative that it's worth trying at least for once. So that's all for me. I'm open to questions, and also we have a discussion forum. So if you would like to pose some question later in the discussion forum, we can continue the dialogue there. I see some people typing. Thank you for your kind words. I'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes because I see some people are typing questions. And actually, there is one question in regard to holoportation in distance education. It can only work if the teacher, lecturer, tutor is holoported and not the student, right? At the time being, this is what I have seen. I have seen people teleported, not as groups, but only the tutor is teleported. And I think it would be nice if people could teleport, use the holoportation for learning objectives and residentials. It would be nice. It would be an interesting idea, but I'm not sure how doable it is at this time. Yes, I agree with you, Anna Christina. Thank you for your kind words. So, if you would like to ask me anything else, you can email me or you can continue. You can ask more questions in the discussion forum so as to engage more people in discussion for those that they are going to see the recorded session. So, thanks again for everything and your participation here. And I will see you online. Bye.